All right, welcome back to another episode. On today's show, we have a really special guest, Thomas Denton. Thomas, how are you, sir?
Very well. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really cool that you are putting this on for therapists. And when I saw it, I was like, I'll do that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we're happy to have you. Thomas, for those of us that don't know anything about you or what you do, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my name's Thomas Denton. I'm a mental health therapist based out of Asheville, North Carolina. My practice is called Guided Step Mental Health Therapy, and I primarily work with children and adolescents with anxiety and panic disorders.
Nice. How long have you been a therapist?
Yeah, so I graduated like 3 to 4 years ago. Time has been weird since then, but I graduated then and then was working with a group for a little bit and then went out on my own about a year and a half ago or so. I'm working with an intern that I really feel grateful and appreciative to work with. And I work part-time in a school and part-time in my office in Asheville.
Thomas, so what motivated you to be a therapist in the first place?
Hmm. As many therapists, I feel like that's a loaded question for me as well. Yeah, I can go into a really long, in-depth story about how that happened, but I'll try to keep it brief. I really found out I really wanted to be a therapist when I was in high school. I made this decision when I was like a sophomore in high school, and it was really because I had a therapist that changed my life. She met me in a really difficult spot in my life. I was in a military boarding school and didn't really know where to turn or how to make friends or what to do or how to process trauma. And she really saw me and heard me in that moment. And we worked together for 5 years and it was life changing. I used to say that she saved my life, but I can like confidently look back and say she helped me save my own life. Um, and yeah, the impact that she had there was what really motivated me to see how I can help young people. And so now I'm here.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting distinction,
Hmm.
going from she saved my life to she helped me save my own life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome because I think that clients really do have the skill set and the motivation. We just kind of got to uncover that in a way, right, Thomas?
Hmm.
How did that experience kind of shape the way that you work with your clients now?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Part of me thinks back to how I felt and what I needed back then in high school, especially. And now I love working with middle schoolers and high schoolers. Like, that's my jam. Yeah, I think people just really need to be seen and heard in their experience. I mean, when people feel like a lost connection or isolated, it just perpetuates like anxiety, depression, and just like feeling lonely and they can't turn to anyone. I think there's a reason why the therapeutic relationship is more important than anything that you do in in session. It's not mostly about the modality. It's just about how you connect with your client. And yeah, I think it really speaks to like kids, especially, need to be seen and heard. Um, and that's especially what I needed back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you say that because a lot of therapists kind of avoid working with kids because it
Mm-hmm.
could be intense sometimes, maybe a little unpredictable. They're a little bit more squirrely, if that's a word I can use. What made you choose children and teens, and what
Mm-hmm.
do most adults kind of misunderstand about what these kids are dealing with?
Mm. Yeah. I noticed you use the word squirrely, and I love the energy that kids bring to session. I mean, the unpredictability is like what makes it like I thrive in the um like weirdness or the trends or the TikTok verbiage that they use. Like, I love getting in their world and figuring out their interests. Um, and I also mix it up. I sometimes see adults because I need that change day to day, hour to hour. Like, kids and teens provide that unpredictability, and working with their parents is always interesting. Um, Yeah, I gravitated towards it because I like the not knowing what I'm getting into every day. Um, and knowing how to support young kids is a true passion of mine.
Yeah, and it's I resonate with that because I did see some kiddos as clients during my internships, and
Mm.
I'll tell you, it was just a I didn't know what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
I had a young boy I was working with once, excuse me, and he walked in and he's like, "We're gonna roll the dice, and if I win, you can only ask me 5 questions, and if you win, you can ask me 10 questions." And I was like, let's do it. Thankfully, I won, so I got my 10 questions, so that was good. Yeah, I agree that it's the energy and the vibes and
Mhm,
their interests are fast. They're all over the place, and it's really
mhm,
interesting to be able to navigate that. Thomas, what are some common ways that anxiety can show up in kids in ways that
mm.
maybe parents don't recognize?
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit earlier today. Just because, especially with uh panic attacks or panic disorders, like obviously media and people kind of view it as one thing. It's the like the hyperventilation, the tense, the I don't know what to do, the panic. That is like so most commonly shared. Um, but panic attacks can be like extreme fear and not getting out of bed in the morning, not able to transition from one thing to the next. And a lot of parents can sometimes label this as like laziness or my child being difficult. And it's like, hold on, like uh when I hear like such fear in those moments, whether it's about transitions or social situations or whatever it may be, um, and parents just like ruling out panic, sometimes that like puts up a flag for me of like this is something we'll have to circle back to because yeah, when it's not the sometimes parents kind of dismiss it and oftentimes overlook it for their kids.
Oh, yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, actually. There's kind of like a preset criteria for what
Mm-hmm.
anxiety is supposed to look like,
Mm-hmm.
and what we recognize to be as anxiety. As you work with the parents, Thomas, is that skill set that you teach maybe? Like, are you kind of like walking them through and expanding their definition of what anxiety is?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, psychoeducation is a huge part of like what I do with parents, and I label it as parent coaching. Um, but parent coaching can look all sorts of different ways, from like psychoeducation around what is anxiety, to what's specifically showing up for their kid and why potentially. Um, yeah, I work with parents a lot. I used to do school-based therapy, like one-on-one with kids, where there was less parent interaction. And now that I've moved over to my private practice, like that parent component being so, so important. Because unfortunately, like a lot of times, if the environment doesn't change for a kid, a lot of the same patterns are going to come up. Um, and unless you like address the core problem of like, hey, we need to change these systems or how you deal with things, you're going to see the same behavior over and over again. And so, yeah, some of my families I work with, I meet with the parent just as much as I meet with the kid. Like half the time with the kid, half the time with the parent, just because that environmental piece just being so significant, especially around anxiety and panic.
Yeah, really interesting that, I think a lot of parents sometimes just kind of point the finger at the kid
Mm.
like, oh, they're just misbehaving, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
label, and it's easy to kind of, just do that,
Mm-hmm.
and as you're doing your work, it sounds to me like you're really engaging like all the stakeholders or as many of the
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders as possible, and doing the psychoed. Does it get to a point, Thomas, where you may make a recommendation for their own individual therapy? Is that a thing in your practice?
Oh yeah. I am like constantly checking in about parents' own supports. Yeah, I work with a lot of single parents as well, and so it's like they're navigating so much. They're holding on to like so much of what this kid needs, housing and finances and food security and education um and then they're like left with nothing. And sometimes I see it right from the start. It's like they're coming in with their own stressors, anxiety, panic of like, I have no idea what to do. And so we immediately jump on those supports for them. Like, do you have friends you can rely on for childcare? Like, is there food insecurity that we need to address immediately? Um, but then, like, beyond that, like you mentioned, their own therapy or couples therapy. It's something I check in with parents a lot, especially when I notice like they don't have their own resources to be able to change or work towards their own goals. Yeah, it's something that I talk often with parents about.
Yeah, that's great. Thomas, what about siblings? Like, is there ever a time
Mm.
when you'll see the entire family in your office?
Um, so family therapy, I think, can look a little different therapist to therapist and like what different families need. So how I kind of deal with that, I have seen siblings together before. Um, yeah, I think of a couple situations that, of course, I won't go into detail about, but um, typically, if siblings have high conflict, I won't see them separately or together. Um, Meaning high conflict like violence or situations that are unsafe because sometimes that can gray the boundaries of like this kid said this and this kid said that, like what side are you picking, and that can be a weird dynamic for a therapist to try to like ride that line. But there's other times where like goals are mutual for the family, and there's a need that's like more than just the one client that I'm seeing there. And so, yeah, whenever I take a client on that is a kid, I focus on like what are their goals, what is the family's goals for them, and how can we best meet that. So if that's pulling in a parent, if that's pulling in a sibling, then that's what we do. But my main priority being the kid that I'm working with individually.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. And as you're saying that, just makes me think that that you're really crafting like a customized treatment plan
Mm.
that will include whoever needs to be included that as
Hmm.
appropriate to accomplish the client's goals.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds really awesome. Um, Thomas, in the world of mental health, there's a whole lot of approaches, right? We got
Mm.
CBT, EMDR. I mean, the list is seemingly endless.
Mm.
For a parent who's just looking to get help for their child, they don't
Hmm.
really know the nitty gritty details of what EMDR, CBT, all these things are. How can you describe your, I guess, your approach
Hmm.
and what you use with your clients?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is something I go over during consultation calls as well, because I think like having a realistic expectation of what you could expect in therapy is super important. I mean, just like knowing what the structure could look like in sessions is something that can be grounding, not only for the kid, but for the parent as well. Um, so I primarily start with like a really intentional rapport building stage, and depending on how old the kid is and stuff, I describe it as like, hey, we're like gonna get to know each other. We are going to try to hear each other's interests and talk about like things that you find important in the therapy process. But then when I talk about like my main modality, I a lot of times talk about DBT or dialectical behavioral therapy. And so it's broken down into four components, and I try to make it super simple for a kid to understand, for a parent to understand. Um, so that's mindfulness, emotional regulation, interpersonal effectiveness, and distress tolerance. And I like to kind of highlight that I like to use practical skills like, hey, I see this coming up for you. Try this skill out in the next week and come back and let me know. Like, did it work for you? Did it not? Did you remember the skill? Um, and trying to kind of use practical tips to help families in those situations.
Wow, that's really, really cool. Thomas, when you, um, kind of walk your clients through what DBT is and what your approach
Mm.
is, what is the feedback when they kind of hear this for the first time?
Mm. I've had a very wide range of feedback. Some kids don't want to be there in therapy. They're like, what are you talking about? I don't care. I don't want to be here. I'm forced to be here. This is not something I'm interested in. Like, how can I get out of this? So that's sometimes where we start. And then other times it's like, how structured are we going to be? Are we going to start with a mindfulness activity every session? Are we leaning more into distress tolerance or emotional regulation? And so depending on like where the client is, where the family is even, will really determine like how I get feedback, and how the family feels about like that structured approach in sessions.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Okay, so a client partners with you.
Mhm.
Parents come in, they bring the kiddos. You do the walkthrough. You kind of walk them through the DBT and what that is. You get the buy-in. What does progress look like?
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. And this is a question I get from kids a lot. Like, how long do I have to be in therapy? Like, what does this look like? Is it 6 weeks or 8 weeks? When am I going to meet my goals? And it can be a really tough question to answer sometimes. Not in the way that I don't know how to answer it, but just it looks different for every person. And this is what I explain to families. It's like, I can't guarantee in 3 weeks things are going to be majorly different. I can't guarantee anything. Um, Parents and kids, they are the ones that really make progress, use skills, and that can look different for every family. And so, what does progress look like? I think it's dependent on the goals, and we set that up straight from the assessment. Some parents come to me saying, my kid's having big outbursts in class, or um, my kid can't get out of bed. What's going on? Or um, in social situations, my kid's having a panic attack. And so with these wide range of goals, it can look different of what does progress look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely different for everybody. And one thing I like to ask you about is, um, sometimes, or not sometimes, but therapy really isn't a linear progression, right? Like
Hmm.
take one step forward, a couple steps back.
Hmm.
How do you kind of prepare parents for that
Mm.
possibility?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I lean into psychoeducation here too. Like, especially around parent coaching and when I'm just like one on one with parents. If from the start they're having this expectation of like meeting goal, this linear path. I think a lot of therapists have seen that meme. It's like what you hope therapy to be, and it's this, and then what therapy is actually, and then it's like all over the place. Um, and so, yeah, setting up realistic expectations happens like from the start, like consultation call. Um, like, what do you see from your kid, and then what do you hope to see like in the future? Um, and so, yeah, I really try to personalize it to each family that I work with. Um, that it's not as easy as we start here and we end here for sure. Setting up realistic expectations is therapy can be messy. Therapy can be super unpredictable. Um, yeah, it's so often where kids share something with me that they've never shared with anyone, and then we're starting in a whole different place than what we thought we were, where we were starting. And so, yeah, and that's why I tried to kind of go into realistic expectations throughout the whole process. Therapy isn't going to look just one way. And session to session, it can look so different too. And so, yeah, checking in psychoeducation throughout the process for me is really important.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, Thomas, I remember a client that I used to work with. They came in and the parents were concerned about bullying, and so we worked on setting boundaries for the kiddo in school. And then it turned out that the kids started setting boundaries on the parents like a couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks later. And then the parents started getting upset about that. Like, hey, like
Mm-hmm.
this was for the school, not for the house, like we're still in
Yeah.
charge. And so that's kind of like the really interesting thing about therapy is that it can take so many different forms. Like you were saying, it
Mm-hmm.
can be different for everybody. And that was a great opportunity for us to come back together and do exactly what you were talking about, that
Mm-hmm.
psycho ed and that was a signal. It's like, why is your kiddo setting boundaries? Like, what's going on? Let's
Mm-hmm.
explore this, and
Mm-hmm.
learn together. And it was such a great opportunity to advance further, even though to them it felt like one step back, in
Mm-hmm.
therapy. So really, really fascinating. Um, Thomas, I'd like to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about the community work that you've been doing since
Mm.
the some of the hurricane and incident that happened last year. What does that look like?
Yeah, Hurricane Helene was absolutely devastating for Western North Carolina. It was unexpected in a lot of ways. A lot of my friends and people that I really love and care about around here knew a storm was coming, but had no idea it could ever look like what it did. And the level of destruction was shocking, to say the least. There's still recovery efforts going on where there's still buildings in a lot of the area that are crumbled debris. And so, yeah, it's hard to say what does recovery look like just because it's so widespread from like water infrastructure, electricity, like road systems. It's like there's so much that still needs to happen. Yeah, I felt fortunate and grateful just about like how I um, didn't have anyone, I didn't lose anyone in the storm, but I jumped right into action. At least I tried to. It made me think of like how I can show up in the community way different. Meeting neighbors that I never met before, reaching out to nonprofits that I've never interacted with before. And so for like 3 to 6 months, I was like boots on the ground as much as I possibly could, especially around like food insecurity and clean water and housing and stuff like that.
Yeah, wow. And that is, I just remember seeing that on the news here. I'm in mid to eastern North Carolina. I travel back and forth, but horrible, just the scenes and like houses literally floating like down
Mm-hmm.
the waterway,
Mm-hmm.
and just the devastation was pretty tragic. Thomas, how did that experience shape the work that you do at your practice?
Hmm. Yeah, it shaped it a lot. Um, yeah, every time I meet a family that lives in Western North Carolina, when we get to the topic around trauma, I check in with the family. What was your experience through Hurricane Helene? What was your kid exposed to? Because I know my perception, absolutely traumatic in what I witnessed, the news, trying to support families through this was so difficult to say the least. Um, yeah, I have seen like an increase in children with weather anxiety. Um, I think of a couple families that I've worked with, but one in particular that, yeah, a child would see a change in the weather, a dark cloud in the sky, and the assumption is, could there be another hurricane right now? And as adults, we may look at that and be like, oh, how unrealistic, or of course that's not going to happen. But how children perceive traumatic events, especially weather, and in a situation that was so unpredictable. Adults didn't know this was coming. And so how children have responded to this has been really, in some ways, difficult to see. That this is going to be like so long lasting and memorable for so many children in the area, and to highlight like how resilient children have been as well. I was shocked. I was part of a crisis response team in a local charter school shortly after the storm, and to see the children's resilience, um, amazing and shocking. Um, to see kids like really excited to see their friends, really happy to get back in the classroom, like grateful that they can get that consistency and structure again. It was beautiful to see. Um, yeah, I can't speak about how amazed I was about children's resilience through this.
Yeah, wow. And that's, I guess, the silver lining in the situation, if I can say that, is that we're able to see the resilience, and that
Mm,
strength and the community coming together. And man, it's just a Wonderful thing to see for sure. Um, Thomas, I'd like to shift gears a little bit, if you don't mind, and
Hmm.
ask about some of the work that you're doing with charter schools.
Hmm. Yeah. It's being in a school is something I'm just so passionate about. Trying to meet kids literally where they're at. I know in especially in the social work field, we talk about meeting people where they're at. Um, and a lot of times that's in the context of like emotionally, um, or like in their family system or whatever it may be. But being in a school is literally they're at school and I'm there with them. So right now I run group therapy in a local charter school, which has been amazing. And I have an intern that works one-on-one with students there. And to provide mental health care in a school system, I think is just something that should be so much more widespread. It should not be a luxury to get access to mental health care in the area, but unfortunately, with our systems, it kind of is. I mean, public schools sometimes have one social worker to like 4 or 5 different schools with hundreds, if not thousands, of students. And that's not even someone doing therapy. That's just like trying to desperately provide the basics around food, shelter, and water, and other like necessities. And so, yeah, when I think about like my work in charter schools, I am like so grateful that I get to be a uh, part of a system that I feel like doesn't give kids what they need, especially around mental health care.
Thomas, yeah, that's fascinating. And I mean, it's wild to think that there is one social worker assigned to hundreds and hundreds of students. It's like how overwhelmed they must be to
Mm-hmm.
just even provide, like you said, the basics, just the
Yep.
resources and the phone numbers. And man, that's got to be a lot. Um, so how did that start for you, Thomas? Like, what did you do? How did you get, like, what motivated you kind of reaching
Mm.
out to the charter school and putting together that program?
Yeah, so I was working for a group practice right after graduation, and really quickly after graduation, I was like, hey, I don't want to be in an office with no windows in an outpatient setting forever. Like, I need to mix this up. And I think this is part of ADHD for me. It's like, I need to have that excitement, stimulation um, around just like trying new things and being excited about stuff. And so, yeah, one day I was like, hey, I want to see more kids on my caseload. How do I make that happen? Called up a charter school in the area that I was familiar with, and they were like, "Yes, please. You can come over and we can start this process like next week." I was amazed. I was shocked. I was like, "Get me in there as soon as you possibly can." Not only to build my caseload, but like I have just such a passion for working with kids, and the outpatient setting just wasn't like doing it for me as much as I thought it was going to. And so yeah, shortly after that, I started doing individual therapy with kids, and it was great just because, as we were talking about, like trying to pull people in to the therapy process, I got to collaborate with wonderful school counselors, principals, teachers, and it was just like a beautiful experience to be able to be like, hey, I know this child's goal is feeling overwhelmed or emotionally dysregulated in the classroom. Like, teacher, here are things that you can do to like help yourself and help the kid through this process. And to see some of the transformation within the school building was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, Thomas.
Yeah.
Really, really cool to hear that you're making a difference in the schools. Let's talk tactics for a little bit. So how does that program work? Like, do you go there once a week, once a month, and then what? How do the students kind of partner with you? Like, are they in the school when they see you, or do they have to see you outside of campus? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the all the logistical stuff I hear you kind of asking about. So originally, when I was with the group practice, I would do my billing through them and like take their insurance, bill through the practice. But how I would get clients on my caseload is I would be collaborating with the school counselors, being like, "Hey, is there anyone that needs like some extra support?" They would call the family. The family would say, "Yes, we want therapy." They would give me the contact information. I would call the family, and do the assessment, and we'd start therapy. And I had an office in the school building, which is like great. So it was just like they're in class, I go get them, they come to my office, we do therapy for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, and then they go back to class. And I think it really shows like how much of a need there is for mental health care. Like they're okay them missing an hour of class because their mental health is a priority right now. And like the family being okay with that, the school being okay with that, and child being okay with that, like really highlighted for me like this is such a widespread need. This isn't just like where are we gonna send the child just to like fill up time. It's like we're prioritizing mental health over anything else for this hour a week in school. Yeah, so now I'm in private practice and have been for the past year and a half. And so I still collaborate with that group practice to be able to run groups, group therapy in the school building. So similarly, reach out to the school counselors. Hey, who might be interested in a anxiety group? That's what I'm running right now. They give me a list of who they think may be a good fit. I reach out to the families, do the assessment, and then we start the groups. And so now every Thursday morning, I meet up with the kiddos, we do our group therapy, and then they go off to class.
Wow. Yeah. And speaking about logistics, it's got to be a huge relief to parents to not
Mm-hmm.
have to coordinate logistics after
Mm-hmm.
school outside of the campus, right? To
Mm-hmm.
babysitters for the other kiddos to take their one kid to your office. And
Yeah.
it's just so much easier and
Mm-hmm.
simpler. I think that if the student's already in the class or at school, they can just go see you and your
Mm-hmm.
intern and do participate in the group. Yeah, that's really awesome. And then they can just go about their schedule and continue
Mm-hmm.
on after they see you. That's so cool. Thomas, what has been the feedback from the parents who opt in?
Hmm. Yeah, I hear like a lot of relief initially, especially in the school. They're like, wait, this isn't after school. I don't have to drive my kid anywhere, and you accept Medicaid. It's like mind-blowing information for some of the families, just because it's like I said, unfortunately, it's been something that's just like not accessible for so many families, especially families with Medicaid. Yeah, I can't tell you the amount of struggle that there is to like find access to care for families that have Medicaid in Western North Carolina, especially. Um, yeah, it's difficult because sometimes I get referrals that I can't take for one reason or another, and they're like, "Hey, I'm looking for like this specific thing," and I look around and I try to find this specific thing, and it's like, "Oh, the closest one is Charlotte or Atlanta or wherever," and it's like, "Yeah, how in the world could they make that happen?" Um, And so, yeah, to be able to like be in the school, accept Medicaid, I hear a lot of relief from families. It's like, oh, please, like, how quickly can we sign up? Um, and so, yeah, that feedback has been really rewarding um, because families are just in such high need at the moment. And they don't have the time to drive their kid places sometimes, or don't want to spend the extra money on gas because, like, the economy is what it is right now. And so, yeah, to meet the kids at school, it makes it so much easier for families.
Yeah, that's so awesome, Thomas. Did you experience any kind of resistance in setting up this program, either by the school
Hmm.
or any other official?
Hmm. Initially, absolutely not. I called the school and they were like, yes, please be here as soon as you can. Um, I think the only, and I wouldn't even call it resistance, but sometimes kids just don't want to participate in therapy for one reason or another. Maybe it's stigma, maybe it's worried that other friends would find out, maybe it's they've heard that a distant relative has been to therapy and they don't want to be like them or whatever it may be. Um, there's so many reasons that kids don't feel comfortable with therapy sometimes, and no judgment, like that's okay. But just as you mentioned, resistance, I think um, that's the only times where like I'm hitting the pause button, like, hey, I think we might not be a good fit for each other because if your kid doesn't want to be in group, it might make it difficult for them to learn the skills that we're teaching. And so just as you talked about resistance, that's the only thing that came to mind, not systematically though, with the school. And I even went to a community meetup for charter schools just a couple days ago, where it was like 7 charter schools like at this community event. And I went and talked with them. I was like, hey, I'm doing this at this charter school. Like, what's your thoughts? And literally 7 out of 7 were like, I want to work with you. Can you come to like meet with our school and our leadership team? Like, could you hire someone in the future to come to our school? Could you run groups in our school? And so it's just shocking. Like, resistance from the school systems, like close to none.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, Thomas, no joke, I got some goosebumps because the fact that 7 out of 7 were
Yeah.
like, yes, yes, let's work with you. Are you hiring? Like, what's going on? Tell us the details. Like, sign me up. That is just a clear indication of, like you said earlier, the need that these schools have for support for mental health. And it makes a lot of sense that some of the kiddos may not want to participate because nobody wants to get, ridiculed. And, you know how kids are sometimes. They can be pretty savage with the jokes and stuff. But I like to ask about the kids specifically. What has been the feedback from those that participate in your groups in the school?
Yeah, I ask a lot. I mean, it feels like almost every group session, especially like, where do we think we are? Like, how did this group go? What's your thoughts on future groups? Like, did we get up and move enough? Did we sit too often? Did you feel like you connected with this skill that we're learning? And so, yeah, when you ask about feedback, I feel like I'm constantly asking for feedback. It's mostly been positive around being able to have a tangible skill and be able to go practice it in the next week and then come back. Hey, this worked for me. Hey, this didn't work for me. I tried to, as you mentioned, like set a boundary with the parent, and this was helpful or this wasn't helpful. And so I would say overall, when kids look back on the groups that I've run or individual therapy, like I've heard a lot of successes, a lot of wins, a lot of like positive stories of, hey, I'm better interacting with my friends. Hey, I'm like getting new friends and building my social circle. I've been able to like speak up about what I need to tell my parents. And so, yeah, that overarching like success stories that I've heard so many times has been really cool. And then also to hear the feedback of like school counselors and teachers. They're like, hey, I see a difference in this kid in my classroom. And just to hear that warms my heart so much. It's like, it's not just that they're practicing the skill in the group, they're actually able to use it in different environments. And yeah, this is why I do the work that I do. It's so rewarding.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like you really are a force for good at the schools, Thomas. That's so cool. I like to go back to what one of the schools asked you, and that is, are you hiring more people? What does
Yeah.
the future look like when it comes to the groups that you're running at the charter schools?
Yeah, I want to continue running my own groups. I always want to work with young people in some capacity. I couldn't imagine a future where I'm not working with families or young people. Um, yeah, when you ask about the future, I do want to hire. I do want to grow into a group practice. My passion is to provide more accessible mental health care, especially in Western North Carolina. Just as we've talked many times about the need here, it's so huge, especially after Hurricane Helene. Yeah, so I do want to hire. I do want to put more clinicians in schools because I don't think it should be a luxury. I think accessible healthcare in general, but especially mental health care, should be a right for people, not some sort of magical privilege that if you're born in the right space or you have enough money or whatever. I think there should be accessibility broadly for all kids. So yeah, I'm working with an intern now, and I do want to hire people in the future. And I'm not exactly sure what that looks like or the timeline, but it's something that I have been actively working on for months now.
Yeah, that's really cool, Thomas. Please keep us posted. We love to hear how your practice grows and how much more support you can provide the community. Earlier, you mentioned I think the group that you were running at the school, excuse me, was on anxiety.
Hmm.
Are there any other concerns that you kind of shape the groups around? Like, do you do a group for depression, anxiety, and then other things? And if you do, what do those other things look like?
Hmm. Yeah, so I closely collaborate with the mental health team at this school. And I really like that this charter school has a mental health team. There's so many public schools, so many private schools that don't have this level of support staff. And so what I do is I reach out to the mental health team and I'm like, hey, what are you guys noticing this school year, this semester? Is it anxiety? Is it more conflict with friends? Is it like high bullying situations? Um, and that's how I really base my. Can you still hear me?
Yes, Thomas.
Okay. My screen went blank for a second, just because I think I didn't touch the keypad too long.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to start over or maybe just pick
Yeah.
up where yeah, whenever you're ready,
Yeah, I
sir.
was thinking just start over. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah,
I think it was
I got it.
about like, okay.
Yep. Yeah, yes, sir. I got it. Thomas, earlier you mentioned that the group that you're running at the charter school was based around anxiety.
Mhm.
Do you run groups that kind of address any other type of concern, like
Mhm.
maybe depression and things like that? And if you do, what are those kind of topics that you base your groups around?
Yeah. Yeah. So luckily at this charter school, they have a great mental health team. They have a lot of support staff that are working directly with students every day. And so what I do is I reach out to them and say, hey, what are you guys noticing more often recently? Is it like anxiety symptoms? Is it like more bullying situations? And I really tried to cater my groups around the needs of the students, especially middle school at the school. And so, yeah, I've done ones on emotional regulation or interpersonal effectiveness skills, leaning into like what is bullying? How do we prevent bullying? Like, what are the skills that you need to kind of successfully build relationships? And so, so yeah, I have a wide range of groups that I run. I've done them mostly on anxiety because that's what's been showing up more consistently recently. But yeah, I like to cater them around DBT skills because that's something I'm really passionate about and I know a lot about. Um, but yeah, I meet with the school to kind of hear what the need is in the moment.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I know that the training that you've gone through, like really prepares you to handle and be able to address a wide range of issues.
Hmm.
And so it's really cool to hear that you're collaborating with the schools and they kind of tell you like, hey, we're seeing this. Like, can you kind of help us with that? And then you customize the group to fit their concern. And I'm sure that the schools really love having you around where like they're like, you're the expert. You kind of tell us how we can kind of address this.
Hmm.
That's really awesome, Thomas. Thomas, I like to shift gears a little bit, if you don't mind, and I like to ask a little bit about Thomas outside of the therapy office.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. In the therapy world, as a therapist, we don't really share a whole lot about ourselves because, for many reasons, and different therapists do this differently. But yeah, I'm happy to. I even have a like about me section on my website that I go into some of my stuff. Um, Yeah, so where to start? I know I mentioned like going to a military boarding school in high school, but I was thinking like starting a little bit earlier than that. Um, where I like really became passionate as a therapist was um, earlier than high school. So I got kicked out of public school in seventh grade, and a lot of people when I tell them that, they're like, "What? Like, how in the world? What could Thomas done?" to have that happen. And yeah, I got labeled as a bad kid. I got labeled as someone that just causes issues for teachers, for students, labeled as all sorts of stuff. And I think you wouldn't even imagine what some teachers have told me over the years. So I got kicked out of seventh grade public school, went to an alternative school for a little bit, and that was really not good. It was full of students that couldn't function in the public school system, and then they put them all together and had like really not good practices in how to manage behavior, and then expected for everything to be okay. And of course it wasn't. There was gangs and drugs and all sorts of stuff going on in that school that wasn't okay. Um, so then in 8th grade, I went to a military boarding school in Virginia, and it was tough, to say the least. It was a struggle all the way through. And then went to school and social work, did school for 6 years, and then and now I've been a therapist for 3 or 4 years now. More about me right now. I love nature. I love being outside. It's such a benefit being in the mountains here, being able to go on hikes, being able to like be by water and waterfalls is something I really like. I like to go rock climbing. Indoor rock climbing is something I really like to do with friends whenever I have a chance. I like video games. I have my video game set up right here. It's kind of messy. I won't show it to you. But I think some of those things about me as a person helps me connect with kids. Like whenever kids are talking about Minecraft or Roblox or Fortnite, I don't play Fortnite, but I have to keep up with it to be on the same page with some of my kids. Yeah, I would kind of describe myself as childlike, and it's a bit different than childish. You know, the difference between that being childish is acting immature or younger than your age. Childlike is the playfulness or silliness or adventurous or curiosity. And I tried to stay childlike in some ways.
Yeah, that's really awesome, Thomas. And I mean, it I agree that being being able to know the games, know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
participate in them, not always and not all of them, but just knowing really does help build rapport with the kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at one of my internship sites and having Mario Kart set up on the Nintendo Switch, and then when they would come in, we would play that for a few minutes because the races are only like 2 or 3 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I'll tell you, like after the Mario Kart little races that we had, like we were just like on fire. Like we were energized, like, oh man, I lost, whatever. And then we would just get a really good conversation going. So
Yeah.
really great way to break the ice, especially with the kiddos who play the video games.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome, Thomas. Um, I like to ask about the future of your practice, Thomas. So you're doing
Mm-hmm.
group work at the schools. You're thinking
Yep.
about maybe expanding that a bit. Um, what about your practice, like outside of the stuff that you have going on at the schools?
Yeah, so I have an office near downtown Asheville. I feel really fortunate to have that space for the past like year and a half to 2 years or so. That wasn't severely damaged by Hurricane Helene. Very grateful for that. Yeah, so my practice, I primarily work with children and adolescents, like I said, on anxiety and panic. And what I hope to continue to do is work with families in that office space and continue to build relationships in the community. I've been so grateful to have like a such supportive network of friends recently. I went to a training hosted by Patrick Cassell um, out of Resilient Mind Counseling, and from there, a lot of local Asheville therapists went as well, and yeah, I've built such a amazing network of friends and something that I really value. And so when I think about the future of my practice, it's like, of course, continuing to see children and families, but it's also like continuing to build really wonderful connections with group practice owners, with other therapists, with nonprofits. Really having that like community outreach network has been really amazing for me as a therapist.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have maybe any online courses or coaching programs coming up in the future, Thomas?
I have thought about that, and I don't think so, to be honest. My passion is to improve accessibility in mental health care for kids, And of course, with trainings and courses, that can be part of it. But in the near future, I really want to be able to hire people, get them in schools, or get them to see children and families, either outpatient in my office, office space, or in schools. And I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on, especially in this next year. And maybe sometime in the future. I mean, I've been asked a handful of times now if I'm ever going to do like coaching for private practice. I've had a bunch of friends reach out to me. How do I do marketing? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I will have lunch with them, meet with them, give them what I know. But yeah, I'm not sure if I will ever go into kind of creating a coaching business around that, just because my passion is leaning more towards like hiring and getting kids what they need when it comes to mental health care.
Yeah, that's awesome, Thomas. Staying focused on the prize, and not being
Mm.
distracted by the metaphorical, person in the red dress. Uh, Thomas, if a parent's watching this and they're kind of on the
Mm.
fence, they're like, I hear Thomas, I see Thomas. What he's saying, it resonates well with me, but they're still maybe a little reluctant or unsure.
Mm.
What would you like them to hear?
Yeah. Being unsure, being reluctant, being hesitant, I think that can be honored as well. I encourage families to do your research, please. Whether it's virtual therapists all across North Carolina or therapists in the area in Asheville, it makes sense to be hesitant. I mean, this is care for your child, and that's something that should be taken seriously. Um, if it's hesitance towards working with me, I'm happy to answer questions to help clarify things. I often just give my business number out. It's on my website, it's on my Google page. That people can like reach out to me, call me, text me. My number is 828-513-9292. And I'm happy to set up a consultation call. These are always free. And we can talk about things like availability and insurance and resources. I'm always happy to do that for families when I'm available.
Yeah, that's really cool, Thomas. Um, Yeah, and it's really cool that you offer those free consultations because that can really help clients kind of make sure or reach out and see if you are a good fit for them. And then
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, if they are a good fit for you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of goes both ways. Thomas, if a client may not be the best fit and
Mm.
for whatever reason, do you help them find another therapist?
Yeah, absolutely. If families want different resources, it feels like every other day I'm creating lists for families, whether it's like food in the area or housing stuff or other therapists. Like, yeah, if we do the consultation call and for whatever reason, like you said, we're not a good fit for each other, I very often, if the family is open to it, hey, like, I may not be a good fit for you. How can I help you like find a good fit for your child? And so I'll reach out to local communities or text some of my networks and create a list for people.
Awesome, Thomas. Well, Thomas, this has been a great episode. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing a little bit about you, your practice, and how you are really helping the community grow and overcome some of the stuff that happened last year with the hurricane. But even beyond that, just maybe those that didn't experience that and being able to work with you and grow. And I mean, I'm hearing you tell me about the great feedback that you've received, not only from the parents, but the students and the faculty at the school.
Mm.
So really, I think all of that just kind of captures a snapshot of what you do as a resource out there in Western North Carolina. How can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of availability, so I'll preface it with that. Just yeah, I can't promise anything when taking on new clients or things like that. But my website is guided-step.com. And like I said earlier, my phone number is 828-513-9292. I really encourage people to call or text me and leave me a voicemail if I'm not available. I try to get back to people within 48 hours. Sometimes it's a bit longer, just depending on how my week looks. But yeah, whenever I get a call, I make sure to follow up.
Awesome, Thomas. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you again for coming on the show, and maybe we could do it again in the future. How does that sound?
Cool. Yeah, follow up would be great.
Heck yeah, Thomas. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Signing out. Bye.